The Abraham Accords, a region once synonymous with conflict, wars, and distrust, found hope in a document. A hope for peace, partnership, and possibilities. Its name, the Abraham Accords. For decades, the Middle East had been fractured by wars, blockades, and religious tensions. But in September 2020, history took a turn. When Israel and the Arab nations sat together and shook hands. This is the story of the accords that lit the flame of hope amidst strife, the Abraham Accords. To understand the Abraham Accords, we have to go back to 1948 when Israel was established. For the Jews, it was a new home, but for the Arab world, it was the beginning of displacement and pain. The First Arab-Israeli War ensued, and over the next several decades, wars in 1956, 1967, and 1973 deepened the wounds further. Yet amidst all this, faint rays of peace occasionally emerged. In 1979, Egypt, and in 1994, Jordan made peace agreements with Israel. But the rest of the Arab nations stood firm on the same stance. No recognition, no negotiations, no peace. The Palestinian issue had become a symbol of Arab identity. Anyone associating with Israel was labeled a traitor. By the 21st century, the dynamics began to shift. The threat was not only from Israel, but also a shared concern over Iran's growing influence. In the 2010s, covert relations between Arabs and Israel started to grow. Gulf countries, especially UAE and Saudi Arabia, realized their security and future are interconnected. Meanwhile, the world was changing. Now, innovation, trade, and technology were the new strengths. Israel, once considered an adversary, was becoming a collaborator in technology and security. Then, 2020, under American mediation, witnessed the most significant transformation. September 15, 2020, Washington, D.C. On the White House lawn, leaders from Israel, UAE, and Bahrain sat together and signed the Abraham Accords Declaration. Soon after, Sudan and Morocco joined. Under these accords, the U.S. provided diplomatic incentives, economic relief to Sudan, and recognition of Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara. In an unprecedented diplomatic breakthrough, the United States negotiated agreements that granted Sudan economic relief and recognized Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara, thereby creating cracks in a 70-year-old wall of distrust between former adversaries. After the agreements, transformative changes occurred at a rapid pace. New embassies opened their doors, direct flights between Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi began, and hundreds of joint technology, agriculture, and defense projects were launched. The trade between Israel and the UAE soared to billions of dollars within a few years, facilitating cultural and intellectual exchanges that were impossible before. Not everyone was pleased, however. Critics argued, "This isn't peace, it's politics," pointing out the unresolved Palestinian issue. Nevertheless, governments pressed on, hoping that economic peace would ultimately pave the way for political peace. The years 2024 and 2025 tested the strength of the Abraham Accords when war erupted in Gaza, fueling Arab public sentiment worldwide against the agreements. The UAE made it clear, if Israel were to annex the West Bank or establish new settlements, it would be crossing a red line. Although diplomatic relations did not sever, the atmosphere became tense. Meanwhile, the U.S. persistently pushed other nations to join, with all eyes on Saudi Arabia. But the next step came unexpectedly from elsewhere. In November 2025, Kazakhstan announced its official intention to join the Abraham Accords. Although it already had existing relations with Israel, this step was symbolically significant, indicating the Accords' expansion beyond the Middle East into Central Asia. Analysts described it as new energy, a sign that hope remains alive. Now the question arises, what has the Abraham Accords truly changed in 5 years? Political impact. Israel now maintains formal relations with 4 Arab nations, its highest number historically. public support remains limited due to lack of progress on the Palestinian issue. Economic impact. The UAE-Israel partnership is remarkably strong, flourishing through billions of dollars in trade, frequent flights, and expansive tech investment plans. Security implications. Behind the scenes, intelligence and defense cooperation have deepened, gradually forming a shared security framework against Iran. Role of the U.S. From Trump to the current administration, the United States has centered its Middle East strategy on the Accords. What lies ahead? There are three potential paths. First, expansion and stability. If Israel exercises restraint and the U.S. remains active, countries like Saudi Arabia may join. Second, symbolic expansion. Countries like Kazakhstan may continue to join, but the impact will remain limited. Third, decline and resistance. If conflicts escalate, partner nations might cool their relations. Today, in 2025, the second path seems the most realistic. The agreements remain alive yet fragile. The Abraham Accords symbolize more than politics. They represent a beacon in humanity's history, demonstrating that enemies can become friends if there is genuine intent. Yet, they caution us that peace cannot endure without justice. It is a beginning, a mirror for the Middle East to reflect on what it can become, provided trust, courage, and dialogue can triumph over hatred and violence. From the deserts of Arabia to the shores of the Mediterranean, from Washington to Astana, the Abraham Accords have reshaped the world's map. 5 years later, these agreements stand at a crossroads. The future will decide whether this dream will persist or vanish into the annals of history. This was Daily Update Current News, DUCN, where news is not only reported but explained. Link, subscribe, and share. Thank you.